Hi friends, as part of this video, I'm going to talk about data structures and algorithms as a brief intro. A lot of you people are new to the world of data, isn't it? You might have heard about machine learning, artificial intelligence, chatbots, OpenAI, ChatGPT, in fact, right? This is how our future is looking like. Everything and anything that we basically can consume with respect to the digital resources. We're taking that and we're trying to innovate and come up with wonderful applications that can help our day-to-day lives. It's like helping humankind using the technology. Of course, flip sides. Let's not get into that discussion, of course. Now, these things that we are talking about, right? This is the futuristic applications that we're talking about. If I have to go into the details of the AI and machine learning, right? So artificial intelligence. If I have to explain, it's nothing but a code, a program that we develop, which basically looks into the instances, the circumstances, and then tries to apply logic, like just like humans, it tries to reason things and then act accordingly. That's like giving intelligence to your computers. Machine learning, these are nothing but the algorithms again. They're specifically programmed to look into the pattern that is to be found from the historical data. Then deep learning, of course, it's a subset of machine learning, and it talks about neural networks, it talks about large data sets, it talks about unstructured data sets and various things that part of um, deep learning that we deal with. All these things, of course, the fancy word data science is that. It's basically a subject, you can say. It's like a research area where we try to research on the um, historical incidents that happen in the business using the digital data, and then try to come up with some kind of a solution by investigating to try and find solutions from the past. The entire process, of course, is basically a, a science that we're trying to do, right? Hence, it's basically called as a data science. This is basically the typical definitions, you can say. So a lot of people, a lot of industries, in fact, trying to consume the data that is getting generated on a day-to-day basis and that is readily available for them to leverage upon. But how do we practically try and consume the data and develop applications that we are seeing today in and around everywhere around us, right? Like driverless cars, for example. How do we practically achieve this? And how effective are we? Of course, there are a lot of platforms, low-code platforms where things are being automated and you just click, then you get the entire solutions ready. But eventually, for those systems also, we need the most important aspect to be understood, that is programming. Right? So these are some of the core fundamentals that you'll have to think about. Of course, we have to use the data that is getting generated. And in order to bring out some kind of pattern, some kind of information from this data, we have to try and apply mathematical concepts, statistical concepts on this data. So you should be familiar with some basic mathematical concepts. And of course, technology. Without technology, you cannot really do any computing. And in order to practically achieve all this theoretical concepts that we're learning, we need to do hands-on. We have to practically implement them for a computer to actually do things that we basically think in our mind. And the effective way is basically to write some kind of code. Now, there are different type of programming languages that you can learn, but the current generation, we want simple things. So we'll not go into object-oriented programming stuff, which are low-code platforms like Java, C, C++. It's a little difficult. I am not a programmer myself. So what I do is I'll try to leverage on the high-level programming platform, or I should say high-level programming language, which is Python, which is so popular today. So there are different other programming languages which are easier. So choose one which is convenient to you. I would probably prefer Python because of course, the benefits that Python programming language has. Now, in order to develop a solution, right, we basically need to have an efficient way of implementing these fundamental concepts that we're discussing. Anyone can write program. That's okay. Today's world, thanks to so many resources that are available, you can learn programming language and you can implement different kind of solutions you can develop. But how effective you everything is cost. There are a lot of free platforms if you want to really consume the technology, the platform resources for computing. The cloud platforms especially are providing you unlimited resources. Of course, they charge based on this consumption that we have. Right? Pay as you as much as you use, or pay as per usage. So when we talk about any kind of a development, we have to be efficient, effective. So we need to try and consume the resources less. And that can happen when everything that you're trying to access is properly organized. For example, your wardrobe, almara, we call that as almara. Imagine, typically, I'm a guy, right? So graduated. So when I was graduating, uh, of course, right, combined studies and all that, we used to hang out in the bachelor's rooms. Now, it was chaotic, isn't it? You can imagine. I'm pretty sure a lot of people did go through this kind of an experience where, right, you try to hang out with friends, where basically it's a bachelor rooms. So when you go into those bachelor rooms, and if you check the almara or the wardrobe where they put their clothes, it's clumsy, isn't it? It's chaotic. And from that, imagine you have to pick a specific shirt. Don't you think it becomes really time consuming, not so effective manner, and you don't really enjoy looking into all that chaotic situation there? Now, just put that picture aside and now come to a different world altogether. Right? You're living with a family, your mother, your probably mother, who's trying to arrange everything in your wardrobe, considering you're not married, you're still studying the bachelor days. So when you open such a wardrobe which is properly arranged, don't you feel nice? And it becomes very, very effective, very, very convenient to pick a specific shirt that you want, isn't it? So what I'm talking about here, in simple words, I'm talking about organizing things. If things are properly organized and if you know how to organize, then accessing content becomes very easy. Now, that is the main aspect when you're trying to write any program, any code, or access any digital data that you want to leverage upon. So DSA, data structures and algorithm, is all about organizing the data and consuming the data for effective solution development. So DSA, right? The name itself says you have digital data and it has to be structured, organized on the digital platform. And if you have things organized, then when you try to access them using some kind of algorithms, functions, or codes, you will be able to access the specific content in a much effective manner. Now, of course, as you see here, there are two important things that you need to remember. We talk about space and time complexities. When you're accessing something, it should not take much time. At the same time, we're talking about digital space, right? Memory, storage capacity. You should not just try to traverse the storage device for a longer duration. You need to reduce that disk read and write right, durations. So there are complexities. We try to reduce them when we try to access the data from a digital platforms if it is organized properly and if you understand how to consume them. In your algorithms also, you can try and structure your program. You can basically call it as optimized coding can be done. And in interviews, in today's generation, in the interviews focus on programming skills, even though you don't come from programming background, if you're applying for any trending job opportunities. Programming is basic thing that we need to understand. And for any programmer, whoever it is, right, whatever kind of programming language you talk about, this data structures and algorithms concepts is a mandatory stuff. So get up and try to learn how the data is organized and how effectively you can write your programs using these fundamental concepts. Thank you, friends.